Namaskar. I, Professor Shachisha from School of Interdisciplinary and Transdisciplinary Studies, welcome you all for this session on groundwater, making the invisible visible. We all know that water is elixir of life. It is very important for our society, for our environment, and for our economic growth. Water is abundantly present into this earth, as we all know that 77% of the water, earth is covered with water. But majority of the water is saline in nature. It is found in ocean. Only a very limited amount of water is present as fresh water, which we are using for our daily purposes, for our domestic use, for our drinking, for our industry, agriculture, and also for various ecosystem related activity. You will be amazed to know that there are more than 2 billion people on the earth who are not having a safe drinking water and sanitation facilities. The people who are living, especially in urban areas, or people living in cities, in the areas on semi-arid and arid areas where there is water scarcity is there, majority of the people are sustaining or extracting the water from groundwater. This groundwater is very important, and it is a very important source for our survival and sustainability. As groundwater is found below the earth's surface, it cannot be seen with the naked eyes, but as we cannot see it naked eyes, we give a very little importance to its sources. We are not concerned about the kind of over exploitation we are doing with these resources, how it is getting polluted by various agriculture, industrial, or domestic activities, or how it is affected by climate change. So today in this session, I will be discussing about groundwater, how it is important to us, what are the various aquifers, type of aquifers, and the support services or the services provided by the groundwater. There are many problems related to groundwater. The recharge is less than the extraction, how the agriculture is responsible for its pollution, how the energy sector, especially coal industry like mining industry, they are responsible for its over exploitation. And at last but not the least, I will be discussing about the groundwater governance, how this groundwater governance, planning and management can play a very important role in achieving the sustainable development goal, especially the sustainable development goal 6, which talks about water and sanitation, but not limited to sustainable development goal 6, but also the other goals like poverty eradication, gender equality, climate action, etc. To give you a brief introduction about the groundwater, almost 99% of all liquid fresh water on the earth is accounting for groundwater. The almost half of the drinking water worldwide is provided by the groundwater. About 40% of the water for irrigation for agriculture is provided by the groundwater, and about 1/3 of the water supply is required for the industry. The drinking water, where the water is not available, it is provided through groundwater by various wells, tube wells, bore water, etc. And people use worldwide. Half of the population is using this groundwater for their drinking purposes and domestic purpose. As far as agriculture is concerned, there are many countries where the agriculture is totally dependent on this groundwater. Beside this extraction of groundwater is due to over exploitation, the groundwater table is going down. The agriculture is also responsible for the pollution of this groundwater. Large quantity of various type of pollutant, whether it is nitrate pollutant, phosphorus pollutant, or various type of fertilizer, herbicide, etc., they are being discharged into this water body. Industry also extract large amount of water. Mining industry, it requires continuously the the water supply, and it is provided by the groundwater. Same way, there are oil and grease industry, food processing industry, and many other industry, textile industry, all the industry required for their various type of activity, for various processing plant, they required water. As far as energy is concerned, coal industry, they require large amount of water, and in the process there are industry which discharge large amount of pollutant, whether these are toxic in nature, whether these are hazardous in nature, they release large amount of this toxic compound into the groundwater. Once the pollutant reach into the groundwater, it is very difficult to remove it, and it persists into the environment or in the groundwater level. Beside that, the groundwater is also provides sustenance to various ecosystems. Various ecosystem, whether they are terrestrial ecosystem, whether aquatic ecosystem, wetland, savanna, riparian, all these ecosystem and various ecosystem related activities, they are totally dependent on groundwater and their survival. The various type of ecosystem services which are provided by these ecosystem, whether these are biodiversity, whether this is food security, whether these are various type of wildlife, they are supported by this groundwater. As far as agriculture is concerned, the irrigation water which support the various type of crops, wildlife and livestock farming, all these are supported by groundwater. So the groundwater not only provide all these activity, but it is also very important in climate change adaptation. Groundwater, as we know, it is a very important part of hydrological cycle. Hydrological cycle, water is never static, as we all know. It melt, it evaporate, it condense, and it goes below down the soil or rock surface, or it percolates down. So when we say the groundwater, it originates from the precipitation sinking into the groundwater from the surface to the water level. We know about the water cycle. There are basically condensation, precipitation and evaporation. As you can see in this picture, that there are saturated zone. Once the water percolate down through precipitation, it reach to the surface of the water table. And this water occurs in the open spaces. It occurs between the silt, between the sand and gravel particles, or it also found in natural fractures in the rock. The United Nations World Water Report 2022, which was published in, or which was out in 22nd March 2022 on the World Water Day, it also focus on groundwater, its importance, how the major intervention, scientific policies or innovation can play a very important role in managing this groundwater resource, which is mostly poorly managed, which is underutilized and under evaluated. There are saturated zone and there is unsaturated zone, that is known as Wodar's zone. So groundwater, it is the water which is found underground in the aquifers. These are the geological formation of rocks, sands and gravel, and it holds the substantial quantity of water. So aquifer, various type of aquifer, they hold the large quantity of waters. The aquifers may be confined aquifers or unconfined aquifers. They feed spring, groundwater basically it feeds spring, rivers, lakes, wetlands and seep into the ocean. This groundwater is not equally distributed. In this case, the water itself is not equally distributed. It is a resource which is scarce in certain countries. It also have seasonal fluctuation. It is affected by various type of disaster, various type of climate related activity, whether it is drought, flood. So it has the spatial and temporal variation. Basically, when we talk about the groundwater recharge, it is recharged by the rainwater, by precipitation or by rainfall infiltration into the ground. The groundwater is extracted from the water by basically by tube wells, by wells, by various bore wells, which because of this continuous extraction and less recharge of the groundwater, the water table in many countries has gone down, and which is a matter of serious concern. I was telling in the previous slide that the water is found in the aquifer. So the question maybe in your mind is, what is aquifer? In a very simple term, an aquifer is a saturated permeable geological unit that can transmit significant quantity of water under ordinary hydraulic gradient. Below the water, there are various type of material are found. In somewhere the water moves very easily, but in certain area the water does not move very fast, or there is restricted movement of the water. When we say the saturated body of the water, here in aquifer the water can move easily. The reason for this easy movement of the water is that there are basically sandstone, conglomerates, well joined limestones, sand and gravel, highly fractured volcanic rocks. These all provide the easy flow to the aquifers. Coming to the type of aquifers, there are basically two type of aquifers. They are unconfined aquifers and confined aquifers. You can see in the picture that as far as unconfined aquifers are concerned, they has a water table and is only partially filled with water. The unconfined aquifer, they are rapidly recharged by precipitation, infiltration down to the saturated zone. So they continuously they get recharged. As far as confined aquifers are concerned, these confined aquifers are filled with water under the pressure. Basically, there is hydrostatic head or the pressure which fill this water. They are separated from surface by impermeable confining layer, or which are known as aquitard, which retard the movement, and the reason this confined aquifer, they get recharge very slowly. Why we are concerned about the groundwater? The reason for this concern is the kind of services it provides, and if we are neglecting the services it provides, then what we are going to leave for our future generation. It is affecting the sustainability of the earth. As far as services are concerned, groundwater provided provisioning services, regulating services, supporting services, cultural services, and a lot of other services or opportunities. As far as provisioning services are concerned, these are the services which human water use for its own purpose. As I was telling you, whether it was for agriculture purpose, for drinking purpose, for domestic purpose, for industrial purpose, or any other human water use purpose. The regulating services provided by the groundwater are, there are buffering capacity of aquifers to regulate the groundwater system quality and quantity. For example, the industry discharge a large quantity of pollutant into the groundwater. Same way, agriculture dispose or through agriculture runoff large quantity of nitrate, large quantity of phosphorus, pesticides, fungicides, herbicides, and other chemicals are discharged into the water body. So the regulating activities of this groundwater is to maintain the buffering capacity of the groundwater, not only in terms of quality but also in terms of quantity. Then the third kind of services provided by the groundwater is supporting services. The groundwater provides support to all kind of ecosystem that are known as GWE, or groundwater dependent ecosystem. The groundwater dependent ecosystem may be terrestrial ecosystem. For example, there may be forest, it's wildlife, agriculture. Then there may be various type of grassland. The marine ecosystem may be riparian, wetland, various type. It also help in the various type of rivers, or rejuvenation of the rivers or filling of the rivers. For example, during the drought condition or during the summer time, most of the rivers are recharged by the groundwater. So if the region where there is groundwater table is high, the river recharge takes place faster, and Beside that, there are wetlands. All these ecosystem related services, whether it is related to biodiversity, whether it is related to food security, whether it is related to providing various type of medicinal properties or other wildlife, so on and so forth, ocean system, these all our services are provided by the groundwater. The fourth type of ecosystem services is cultural services. So, these cultural services are related to leisure activity, to recreation activity, to aesthetic services, related to some religious activities. So, cultural services are provided by the groundwater. Beside that, groundwater is also provide various opportunities for adaptation for climate change. It also provide the expansion of geothermal energy, the geothermal energy which is an alternative source of energy, and it is provided by groundwater, or it provide the water security or provide the help in water scarcity. When we talk about the water, we know that the water is found in various form, whether it is surface water, marine water, or lotic water, lentic water, or groundwater. The water which is available to us, basically, as the earth is known as blue planet, the water which is available as fresh water is blue water. The water which is wasted from our kitchens, from our domestic use, is the gray water, and the sewerage water which cannot be used basically from the sewage system is black water. So we have very limited amount of water. The groundwater makes an alternative source for the water, and it helps us in not only our various type of socio-economic activity, but it also help in related to public health. As we know that when we are talking about the gender equality, we know that there are areas where women have to walk many kilometers to fetch the water because of unavailability of surface water. As far as waterborne diseases are concerned, every single day it is reported that 1000 children less than age of 5 years, they are dying because of unavailability of safe drinking water, or the water which is polluted. So this groundwater provides a very important source for poverty eradication, for the purpose of food security, for providing the clean drinking water, and also it helps us in adaptation to various climate change related disaster, whether it is flood, whether it is drought, or whether different type of climate related disasters. The groundwater system, as I was telling, that it provides provisioning services, regulating services, supporting services, and cultural services. The provisioning services are domestic water, agriculture water, industrial water, and geothermal energy. As far as regulating services are concerned, this groundwater act as buffering between wet and dry period. This buffering the impacts of climate change and also reduce soil erosion and prevent from flood. This buffering also help in water chemistry and temperature, and help in water purification, as I was telling you, the pathogen and contaminants. As far as supporting services are concerned, the supporting services are concerned, they are related to groundwater dependent ecosystem. The groundwater related ecosystem, whether these are spring, base flow of streams, sustaining groundwater dependent wetland and phreatypes, and sustaining subsurface life. It control land surface stability. Cultural services, it provide mineral water, it hot spring, sacred spring and wells, spiritual healing and value, leisure services. So these all cultural services, recreation, aesthetic, etc. As far as India is concerned, the world largest user of groundwater is India, and out of this 89% is used for irrigation. There are estimated 20 million wells and tube wells. There are different water storage structure where the groundwater is stored and used for various purposes, but maximum is used for irrigation purposes. When we talk about green revolution in 1960, this green revolution was dependent on the irrigation water, which was basically extracted from the groundwater. And this is the reason that in many areas, due to over exploitation of this groundwater, there is condition where the water is scarce, water scarcity type conditions emerge in summers, and the people they have to get this water from far fetched area. There are issues related to wash, whether it is safe water, sanitation and hygiene issues. In irrigation, farmers use the crop which are very water intense, like sugarcane, like coffee. Likewise, in textile industries, construction industries, the groundwater is used in a very excess amount. It is exploited. This is the reason that recharge takes place slowly and the contamination is removed very slowly. So, what are the challenges which are related to groundwater? The first thing is climate change and water scarcity. Then, groundwater dependent ecosystem pollution, including emerging pollutant. Climate change, we all know that it is affecting entire earth. The increase in temperature is a serious concern. Because of increase in temperature, there are various type of disasters related activities, whether it is drought, cyclone or other activity. The glaciers are melting. There is increase in river flow. The sea salinity is increasing. So basically, the climate change it impacts the groundwater system. Because of climate change, there is decline in snow and glacier extent. This climate change and expansion of irrigated land in dry land, it is increasing evapotranspiration. The transpiration is increasing. This transpiration is resulting into more precipitation. This groundwater depletion contributes to the sea level rise, that is known as SLR, that is sea level rise. Because of groundwater depletion, there is sea level is rising. The sea level rising, it occurs from basically melting of ice and thermal expansion of ocean. There is intensive groundwater abstraction from coastal aquifer, and it also result into the coastline intrusion. Intensive groundwater fed irrigation in dry land, it also result in depletion and storage, or depletion of groundwater and storage. So in a way that various type of activities, these are the cyclic process of hydrological cycle, and it affect the availability of groundwater, and the climate is affected by the groundwater. This is a kind of cycle. When we talk about the pollution into the groundwater are source of discharge. Now it has become the discharge, and the pollution is without treatment. All the type of water, whether it is from mine, landfill, whether it is contaminated river water, whether it is contaminated industrial site water, whether leaking sewers, wastewater lagoons, pits, domestic latrines, sewerage water, poorly constructed well, and intensive agriculture, all these are discharged into the groundwater, and these are the basic pollution sources for groundwater. Because of this, large quantity of various type of toxic compound, various type of heavy metals, various new emerging pollutant, they are discharged into the groundwater, which is affecting the quality of groundwater. The groundwater is very important as far as sustainable development goals are concerned. We know that the Agenda 2030, there are 17 sustainable development goal, 159 targets. Though there is only one goal which is directly linked with the water and groundwater, that is goal number 6, ensuring availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. But indirectly, the groundwater contribute to other sustainable development goal also, for poverty eradication goal 1, for food security, as the groundwater is used extensively for agriculture purpose, for industry industrial purpose, for job, for livelihood, and also for daily needs. It also contribute to gender equality, that is goal 5. It affect or it contribute to sustainability of cities and human settlement as the urban population is increasing. The construction activities and urban activity, they all are dependent on groundwater. These are the major source, or these are the major contributor for groundwater extraction. This is also important in combating climate change, which is goal number 3, and protecting terrestrial ecosystem, which is goal number 5. So the groundwater is contributed immensely to all the sustainable development goal, and it is very important. The sustaining the groundwater resources are very important for achieving the indirectly or directly most of the sustainable development goal. Now coming to the groundwater management, for management of the groundwater, an adequate and effective framework is required. Groundwater governance is required. All the countries need to set up and maintain a fully operational governance structure. They need to increase the knowledge base about the groundwater, how the groundwater is recharged, what are aquifers, how we can maintain the water table high, and managing this aquifer. There is a need for institutional capacity. There is a need for laws, regulation, and their enforcement. The policy and planning will also play a very important role in groundwater management, the stakeholder precipitation, and appropriate financing. Only policy, law, and governance will not suffice the groundwater management. For this, there is a need, there is a requirement that all the policies and plans should be fully implemented. The government assume they should consider their role as a resource custodian, and they should ensure that the access to groundwater is distributed equitably and the resource remain available for future generation. But the role of government is important, but there is individual responsibility also. Groundwater management can be done as individual level, local level, and also as global level. As individual level, it is our responsibility to protect the groundwater, to recycle, reuse of water. As an individual, we can work out for the rainwater harvesting. We can work for the reducing the contaminant of water and reducing the water use and wastage of the water. So in the end, I conclude this session by saying that groundwater is very important resource. It is directly linked with the Sustainable Development Goal and Agenda 2030. These are the resources which is necessary for our survival, for our economic, for our society, for our environment and public health. Maintaining the groundwater, the recharging the various activities related to groundwater is very important, and it is the duty of each and every citizen. By scientifically managing our groundwater resources, preventing them from contamination, from pollution, and from the effect of climate change.